Welcome everyone in this new video tutorial about the multiplayer combat editor. In this video we're going to talk about the critical strike built-in MCE feature. So what is this? It's basically how skills are calculating their critical strike chance. And why is this an important subject? Because whenever you want to use uh, a chance to do something in multiplayer, you need to make sure that the client and the server both calculate the same chance. So if you deal a critical strike on the server, it has to be told to all clients that it was a critical strike. So I build a simple logic in skills to allow that and to allow us to broadcast uh, values which are being rolled based on a chance, on a luck factor. But it's going to be the subject of another video, how to broadcast these luck values. In this video, we're just going to focus on the critical strike built-in function. So if you open up the skill blueprints contained in the multiplayer combat editor and type in critical in the research bar at the top, you have a get skill critical roll, and this is a function that is used to feed the amount of damage, to feed the extra multiplier parameter of the apply damage function we call on our combat manager. So that's a lot of information there. And that's the extra multiplier is the subject of another video contained in the Combat Manager playlist. So if you haven't watched it, I suggest you to watch it before watching this video. So the function getSkill critical roll is feeding the extra multiplier function. It's basically telling it's basically returning either 0, either 0.5. 0 means we do not have a critical strike, and 0.5 means we increment 50%, we increment the amount of damage by 50% because we did a critical strike. So that is how that function, that is what that function, this function returns, 0 or 0.5. And of course we can customize this. If you double click that, how is this behaving? So first off, if you want to modify this, you can modify this by going into your own skill behavior. For instance, I'm going to modify this in my montage skill. If I go there, I can click on the override button, drag and drop the little drop down menu, type in get skill critical roll, click in, it's going to override the logic, and in there the orange node is the logic you can see there, and you can get rid of this and build in your own critical strike logic in there. And how is it currently working? It says it has two values, base critical multiplier and base critical chance. And the first thing we can notice there is that both of these are variables, which means they are not stats, which means they cannot be modified at runtime using the basic MCE features. So these are static variables which you set in your skills. So any skills you create, so for instance, BP slice, if I'm going into the class defaults, if I'm going into the metrics folder and typing in critical, I'm going to have two variables there, base critical chance and base critical multiplier, and I can modify these values. These values are these. So all skills have that amount of chance, that increase in damage if they do a critical strike, and that amount of chance to do a critical strike. And you can customize this either in your montage skill. So for instance, if you don't want your skills to do any critical damage, you can he can specify this by just saying base critical chance 0, base critical multiplier 0, for instance. And the PP slice is going to have 0, 0 as well, since it's a child class of my montage skill. So these are the base metrics used. And then what are we doing? We are saying 100 minus the critical chance we have. So this gives us 75. Is our critical roll above 75? If so, it's a critical. If not, it's not. So if it's not, it's just saying that the extra multiplier of the damage is equal 0. If it is a critical strike, it's going to be that value which is passed as parameter. That value is equal to 0.5 for now. So 50% increase in damage. And how do we roll the critical roll? If you double click this, you are coming on a function that says get the custom values, registered in the skill, and get the value corresponding to critical roll and return the value. And this is going to be the subject of another video, but this is basically the information broadcasted in multiplayer when you use a skill, and the server is telling us if it's a critical strike or not, and it's telling all clients if it's the case. So everyone knows if it was a critical strike or not. So critical strike, the built-in critical strike feature of MCE is using another built-in MCE feature, which is the custom values, which is going to be the subject of another video. So to sum up, the skill deal damage using the apply damage function, which is rolling either it's a critical, which is rolling how much extra multiplier we have based on the critical roll. You can modify the extra multiplier value we are passing there by overriding the apply damage function and modifying this. Or you can just modify how critical strike are rolled by overriding get skill critical roll. But this logic is perfect for critical strikes since it's already being broadcasted to everyone. So if you want to use critical strike, do not modify this. Just modify, for instance, if you want to make it so your skill critical multiplier and chance are based off a stat, you might want to copy and paste that logic, but you might not use these static variables and use quick get stat instead. So for instance, you could be creating a new stat by going into the settings of MCE, going into the eStat enum, create a new stat, call that critical chance, for instance. Save this. Go back to BP skill, copy and paste that in your montage skill, get critical skill roll, like that. And get rid or just bring up quick get stats of your character. You want to get critical chance, and you want to get the current critical chance of your character. Base critical multiplier is going to be 1. So for instance, you deal 100% more damage when dealing a critical strike. And if you're hitting play, it's going to take a while because we added new stats to our stat enum. So we are never dealing a critical strike. But if we go to our third-person character, add a new stat, there, which is going to be critical chance. If we say we have 100 chance to do a critical strike, we are going to do double the amount of damage. If we say we have 25% chance to do a critical strike, we're going to do one from time to time. I was lucky there. I did 2 critical strike with 25% amount of chance. So this is how you can use the critical strike logic and modify it to fit your game needs. And this is how you can also get rid of it if you don't want critical chance, or if you want to use something else for your extra multiplier of your skills. So it's going to wrap up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.